Hello everybody, long time no see. I'm sorry I had so many issues with my computer, but they are finally almost completely fixed. I actually had to replace some fans in it, and because my computer is so powerful and it's supposed to be a quad core, but it's actually a bridged 8 core, so it needs a lot of cooling to work properly. And because some fans started to hiccup, I had to replace them. Right now I'm still going on without one of the fans because I needed to get an adapter to plug in the new fan I got, but it's still going fairly good. I have a temperature watching software so until I fix that fan I cannot make videos, obviously, because that requires a lot more cooling, because the computer gets a hot head if it thinks too hard. Anyway, so hi Rochelle, hi Krista, hi Lydia, I know you're gonna see this later, hi Judy, hi Gail, hi Donna. Anyway, so I thought of continuing the whole flowers thing, and with that we are going to talk a little bit about what flowers you might want to do, because artificial flowers are really great for brooches or for those little combs or hair barrettes. Hi Donna. Yeah, they are almost gone, so all is good. But if you do them in fabric, or if you get some of those fabric flowers, and even if you make some of those foam flowers that can be absolutely gorgeous. I'm actually following two YouTube channels that make a whole bunch of stuff with foamy sheets, and they are like, oh my god. Actually, if you want, let me show you one of them. I've been trying to kind of figure out how to make some of that stuff with polymer clay, and I should be soon. Again, I'm saying soon, but hopefully this time it will be soon, because I took advantage of the fact that I couldn't do much with the computer, so I did a lot of deep cleaning that I didn't do, for such a long time, because I had over a year of messes. Let me hold on, I'm trying to get her. Okay, so this is, I think she's Russian. Yes, she's Russian or Ukrainian or something, but if you click, let me actually give you directly her videos. If you click through, I mean, her work is absolutely out of this world. It's so beautiful. Hi Renea. Oh my goodness, that's a long trip. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about first is, as I said, the thing with what flowers can you do. But the thing is that with the fabric ones or with the foam sheet ones, it's still, they would get grimy and all that, while some fabric flowers nowadays are washable, but not a lot of them. But if you make an artificial flower with polymer clay, that one you can wash it without a problem, so it's going to be looking fresh at all times. So let's see what flowers can be used for that. I'm not gonna go through the lilies because I already did a couple lives on lilies and we made lilies. But if we go through this, most of them would be like the daisies, you know, and there are so many flowers that look like the daisies, only they are different sizes. Because, for example, chamomile flower looks very much like a daisy, but it's way smaller. Then we have everything that's in the black-eyed Susan family. And all of these, they are flowers that have practically a lot of long petals, long and thin petals, and then they have a middle. And then we have the flowers with a lot of long petals but clustered. And those go, see, like gerbera is a beautiful flower that goes in the same daisy family, because there are also gerberas and African daisies are the same family. But then we have the dahlias, the mums. What else is there? The straw flowers, and they are all chrysanthemums. They are all in that category, and they make gorgeous brooches and see pointy flowers, all kinds of. And I'm not going to go through the spring flowers because I did spring flowers. We did the daffodils and we did the what you call it, the snowdrop, and what did we do? The lily of the valley. We did the violets. I did pansies. So I'm going to focus this time on the ones that I didn't do before. The hellebore would go more towards the round petaled, because you also have the round petaled and you have the teardrop petals, like the frangipani, the plumeria type. And if you remember, I did the plumeria cane. There's a lot of stuff that I need to redo, and hopefully now that I'm almost completely caught up, I'll be able to start working on stuff again. So going back to what you need, what you actually need to create all those. Hi Beth. You will need obviously polymer clay. Now what I suggest whenever you do polymer clay flowers, to always, if you work with Premo or if you work with Fimo, always add a little bit of translucent. You can go as far as, depending on the color, you can go as far as 1/3 translucent. And why I said depending on the color, some colors are more opaque. It's not a matter of being light or dark. It's a matter of opaqueness, of translucency. And out of all the colors of polymer clay, the most opaque color is white. So high space oddity. So out of everything, any color that you make that will have white in it, that's where you have to do, where you have to add more translucent. Because to give you an example, if you make and I'm gonna draw it here real quick. If you make a Skinner blend that has white and let's say blush, pink, yellow, you name it. So you have your Skinner blend practically. I'm just doing an example, a small example. So we are going to place like this, and this is going to be yellow, and this is going to be white, right? If you have this kind of stuff, yellow is a little bit opaque itself, but white is the most opaque. You go ahead and you add the translucent, but when you add the translucent, you calculate, so you'll make the same length, a piece the same length, and then you go like 1/4 of the yellow, and then you go to 1/3, or even more. You can do 3/5, not 3/5, sorry, 1/3, or how much would it be? 2/5. So you add more, that's what I'm trying to say. You add more on the side where you have white, because otherwise your white will be opaque. Your flower will not have a realistic look. It would look either like plastic, depending on how you finish it. It will look either like plastic, or it will look like porcelain. Now if you're going for the porcelain look, that's good, but you risk your piece to start looking like one of those thrift store things, you know. When you try to do another thing, when you try to do a realistic flower, do not varnish it with any kind of shiny stuff. You don't really need to varnish a flower. There are very few times when you need to do any kind of surface treatment when you do a flower, and when you have to do, and you want to kind of get yourself into the making artificial flower things, my advice is to, yeah, they are a little bit more expensive, but my advice is to actually buy a powder that bonds with polymer clay without needing baking. And of everything that I've tried, the only ones that I know that do that are the Franco Garcia artisan powders. They don't have bright colors, they are more like into the vintagey earthy colors, but you can still do a lot of, because for example, they don't have yellow, they have yellow ochre. But those, you know that they will not get off. Or like the pan pastels, sometimes even if you have to bake it, you have to treat it before baking. Use something like a pan pastel, but if you use you cannot really use perfect pearls, because those are pearlescent. You need something, in the pan pastels you can find colors that are not pearlescent. Talking pearlescents, the other thing that you must do when you do flowers, and it depends on the flower, but most of the flowers do have, if you remember when we did the whatchamacallit, the penny, I showed you how the real flower has a little bit of pearlescence, because all those little cells that make the petal, they are filled with water, and they create a little bit of prism refraction, and this is why when you look close to a flower petal, it will have a little bit of pearlescence. So my advice is to add a little bit of pearlescent. If you don't have a whole bunch of colors of pearlescent, just use a tiny strip of white pearl. The clays that do not really need all this thingamajig are Cernit and Pardo. And with Cernit and Pardo, hi Colleen, you don't really need to start mixing translucent, start mixing pearlescent, start mixing all kinds of stuff, because they already have that beautiful thing that will make your creation look realistic. And the best to use is the Cernit Opaline. And in the Pardo, let me actually show you. I need to complete with a few colors. I didn't take photos yet. I made them. I got them, I made them, but I didn't get the photos to complete it. But if you go on my website, I have actually an article, and it's on the home page because I leave it there for people to know, to find it easier. You can see that I did each and every color. As I said, I'm missing like 5 or 6. I mean, I'm not missing them, they're not on the website yet. Where I not only showed you the photo of how it looks like baked, but I also noted there if there is any translucence and if there is any pearlescence, because some of them, they are more opaque. Like, for example, if you go for the alabaster, as much as you might be tempted to do something with it, it's opaque and it has no pearlescence. But if you go for the orange calcite, that one will be absolutely beautiful, or the ruby. Some of them may be opaque but have no pearlescence. Some of them may be translucenty but they don't have pearlescence. So, like for example, the rose chalcedony is opaque but pearlescent, and they have various degrees of pearlescence. So those are two polymer clay brands that you can play with. And I know that Cernit can be much more easier acquired in the US. Let me actually give you as I thought I had it here. Darn it, I don't have it. I have it on my laptop on my home. Hold on a second, give me a minute. It's Marie Segal's Clay Factory. And they are absolutely great when it comes to shipping. Just be aware that they don't have shipping discount for quantities. So I would suggest that don't buy several at the same time. You know, don't buy 3 or 4 because it's gonna cost you the same as if you buy 10. The shipping, that is. And when it comes to the Pardo, I personally, whatever Trish at PolyClay Play doesn't have, I buy them from a store in the UK that is called Badley Crafts, and she has pretty much all the colors, and the shipping was not an arm and a leg. I mean, I found the shipping to be quite decent. Now remember, all this shipping thing, it is not the poor shop owners. Most of our polymer clay shop owners, they are, in the best case, they are a family owned, but most of the time they are pretty much a one-woman show. And it's not their fault that the shipping is so high. It is the fault of the powers that be, because the shipping, I mean, I was looking honestly in 15 years how much the shipping went up, because I know I was sending to Europe and to Romania a lot of stuff before the shipping went up. And especially like 17 or 18 years ago, my eldest nephew was growing. I mean, it was the period of time between when he was 10 and when he was 16. Try and post the link, Krista, please, and I will approve it, because YouTube doesn't allow chat participants. And I will approve it so everybody can see. If you can get the link, that would be great. So as I was saying, my nephew grew in a spurt. I mean, he went within like 3 years. He went from 4.8 to 6.6 feet. So he was going through, and he was a very active, very sportsy guy, and he was going through sneakers and jeans like crazy. So what I was doing, I was just going to thrift stores and getting the best looking jeans, and I was sending my mom and my sister packages pretty much every 2 months, and I could afford it without a problem. I mean, I was sending like 30 pounds or 40 pounds. Now it's a problem if I want to send more than 2 pounds, you know. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I know that there's a lot of people in other countries who are so upset that they cannot, you know, they would like to buy some of my pieces and they cannot because it's so expensive. I mean, the cheapest to send a small package overseas from here is $25. Linda's. Okay, let me try and find it. Give me a second. And she's in the UK. She's in the US. Huh. I know. Let me see. Polymer clay. Shop. Okay, so she's got the Cernet. She's got Cato. Oh, she doesn't have Pardo. She only has Cernet. Okay. So, yeah, I see she has Cato. She has Premo. She has... It's not somebody I know. So, I'll try and order from her something to see how that is. I don't... I mean, if it were Pardo, I would recommend her as just... There's not enough Pardo to buy here. But I've ordered many times from Clay Factory from Marie Segal, and I know how that works. So I usually, especially because I had issues with delivery. And another thing, I just wish, especially now that it's summer, more polymer clay stores would do thermal packaging like Trish does, because I know with Trish I don't have to worry, you know, that my polymer clay might get here half baked. Anyway, let's get back to our flowers. So I'm going to show you with Premo, because I know most people cannot get the Cernet or the Pardo. It's more expensive than Premo, and some people already have Premo, so I will show later some Cernet stuff, but for now I'm going to just do the Premo. Okay, so as I said, I'm still working on things. Not everything is here completely. So I'm going to use a little bit of the magenta pearl. Does she do thermal packaging, Krista? I'll have to look. I'll have to order, and I'll have to see how that works. So this is some contaminated. I don't really care a lot of contamination, because it's just to give a... So I'm going to use some magenta, and I want to obtain... Let's go ahead and do a little dahlia, because I did not ever do a dahlia, and just to show you how to create the dahlia itself. So give me just a second with this translucent thingy here. Now, one thing that you'll have to keep in mind is that you want your clay, before you start putting the flower together, you absolutely want your clay to be a little bit on the firm side. So if you have a hot house, or if you worked with cernit, sometimes can give you some soft clay issues. Get your clay in the fridge, and what I usually do, I have a cutting board, a biggish cutting board, and I just put some wax paper on it, and then I put my whole thin sheet of, yeah, no nail polish, because I'm still cleaning and I didn't want to just put nail polish on for nothing, for just a few minutes. Okay, now I'm going to want this to be fairly whitish, just with a touch. That's why I'm not going to add any other color. So I'm going to go for a very light pink. So this is all I'm going to do. And so I just cut those. So I'm going to go directly with it in the pasta machine. And I'm going to make my translucent into a, as you can see, it does have a little bit of pink contamination, but I don't really care because this is going to be pinkish anyway. And see how I kind of teardropped it? I wedged it, because here's going to be more white than here. Now I'm going to flatten it a little bit, and then I'm placing the more translucent towards the end that's got the more white. And this is how you start. Remember that I am very unorthodox when it comes to Skinner blends. I got all kinds of shortcuts and methods, and I told you, you must never fret unless you're doing some kind of Skinner blend that has to be absolutely perfectly, totally matching, you know. If you do something like this, you don't have to worry about it being perfect. You need to get this 1 inch of this and half an inch of this, or half an inch of this. You can get a very good looking Skinner blend just like this. And I'm going to go with it through the pasta machine. Let me and I'm going to get it lower. And at this point I can fan it a little bit. Thank you, Krista. Okay, now I have this that's going to be a longish one. And again, on this one you don't have to be super careful about the lines being the same. Let me get this back to the thickest, and I'm going to start mixing it, and I can actually make it even shorter. Let's do this because it's gonna be the exact same thing. Flatten it so it would go through the thickest setting on the pasta machine. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to hurry it up, and for this I'm going to go successively much thinner so I can start rolling it. Because that will help me get rid of all those rags on the sides. Turning it back to the thickest, and now I'm going to start rolling it, because that makes the Skinner blend faster. Because remember, when you're folding you have two sheets, one on top of the other, but when you roll you have like 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to make the mixing to obtain the gradient much faster. And not only that, but you can start and do these ragged edges in. There are some clays in which you cannot really do without the ragged edges. Like Fimo, most of the time, no matter what you do, it's gonna give you a ragged edge. When you try to do a Skinner blend with Fimo leather, is going to do the same thing. Okay, now I'm gonna go with it. Now let's do another fan folding, and then I'm going to do another rolling, and then my mix will be perfect. See what a delicate pink. Because also when you do the fan folding, those whitish ragged edges will get in more than when you do a... Let me actually get this a little bit lighter, because I just looked at it's more... the pink is darker than in real life. Let me just a second. There we go. Now this is real life color. So I got this. I'm going to gently thin it out a little bit so it can get through the machine. I'm going to do 2 folds, and then I'm going to get it thinner and thinner and thinner so I can do the roll up, and then I should be just fine. do that fold at the end because it's high Natalia, it's with the flat, it makes a flat edge. So on this type of Skinner blend, it just makes it easier to roll. And you see what a delicate, totally delicate pink we have here. It's just fabulous. I don't know, I had for a long time, I couldn't stand pink. Hi Martina. After the breast cancer thing, it was for a long time I couldn't stand pink. But then I got better about it. I still prefer blue. Okay, so now when I start doing this, I should be just fine with the color that I want. I'm going to keep folding until I get to the full width. Yay! I forgot to turn the machine to sticker setting. Ah, nice, huh? But you can already see how it's almost completely done. So let me do another roll. I forgot to turn back the machine. I usually turn it back when I stop it, but this time I forgot. And I cannot even blame the CRS syndrome, because I was like that even before I got old. Okay, now we are on the thicker setting. And I saw that I had a bubble here. That's the only problem with when you do the rolling, you might grab some stuff. Thank you, Donna. You might grab some air. Okay, so this is fairly good. So my next thing is to get my Skinner blend to be as wide as the petal that I'm trying to do. So there are two kinds of cutters that you can find with Trish. I don't think I have any. I might have some in my influencer store. But be careful if you want to do a dahlia or any kind of stuff, because you have these longish teardrop kind of petal cutters. But this is the water lily cutter. This is the one that you want. Hi Ellen, hi Jenny, hi Jots Designs. So this is pretty much what you want to do if you want a dahlia. The dahlia petals are quite pointy to the point of insertion. So you have to think that how big your brooch would be. You don't really want it to look like a cabbage, right? Even if we have some humongous dahlias. I mean, I know that I had at one point some dahlias that I had to prop because they were like this big, the giant dahlias. But what you have to think is that it's going to be 2.5 the length. So your whole flower is going to be maybe not 2.5, but 2.33 the length of your petals. So if I use the smallest cutter, that's going to give me 1, 2. It's going to give me a flower about this big, which is okay. for a brooch, for a comb, for whatever. Hi Sharon. Oh, how I got it to stop wobbling. Let me see where I put those. Hold on a second. I think I added them to the miscellaneous in the influencer store. So you get these things because I tried initially with the thicker ones. You know, these are the surface protectors. But these ones they're just felt dots, sticky felt dots. But these are much, give me just a second. Okay, I have these. Okay, let me turn this off for a second. I had these, but these are way too thick to put. Actually, I don't know why I turned it off. To put here, right? So I bought these because they are like a quarter of the thickness. So when I needed, I could put two, one on top of the other. And I just kept adding until my motor stopped wobbling. Hold on, let me try and move the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. See them right here? I put them here so until my motor didn't wobble anymore. And there's that. So let me check if I have them in the store. I think I did, but just to be sure. Because if I didn't, I'm gonna add them right now. I didn't. Just a second. Because I know I looked for a while to find them this thin. Okay. Come on, Amazon. Okay, they are on the first spot right now in the what the heck did I do? I did something wrong. Okay, so if you go in my store right now, I moved miscellaneous on top and it's the very first thing. So as you can see, I'm gonna need my Skinner blend to be this white. So that sounds like a big problem, but it won't be. So number one, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to again, but yeah, you need first to have your Skinner blend done before reducing it to the width that you want, because you don't want to have to reduce it and then go, oh my god, it's not good, let me do some more blending. You want your blending to be fairly well reduced. And the way that I'm going to do it right now, it's going to be pretty much the length of the cutter. So I'm going to have to work very carefully with it, so I wouldn't, it's just a little bit shorter. So my first thing is to get it a little bit thinner, and once I get it a little bit thinner, because of the roller, it's going to widen up to exactly what I need. You can keep it a little thin, a little narrow if you want, and first go on the thickest setting. So as you can see, it has these little lines. So my next thing, I don't have to go narrow on the thinnest setting anymore, because it's fairly nicely blended already, so I don't need to do a lot of blending. I think that if I do 2 rolls, it should bring me to exactly what I need. Dahlia petals, Chris. Hi, hello. So let me keep it narrow, and see, that's the whole idea. When you do this, you can take care of the narrowness well enough that you don't have to worry about it too much. But because of this, I'm also going to use my other trick I have for the flowers. See, it's still a little banded. Let me get it thinner, just in case. Just to get stuff faster. Okay, so again, first fold, then roll, and this time it should come up just fine. I'll probably have to fold 1 time, not more, and just folding 1 time makes it easy to keep the narrow down. At the very last one, you have to be a little bit smaller than the cutter, because as you thin it out, it's going to start widening. Hi, Maria. Okay, so again, I'm going to get these taken care of. And now it should be fairly good. And I want it much narrower than this. Now, starting from this point, you have 2 choices. You can use the cutter, or you can make it like a cane. Okay? If you make it like a cane, it will look more natural, but it will be a little bit harder to shape the the whole petal thing. So I do need to do a couple more passes, as you can see, but I need to keep it narrow, because as I said, once I start getting it thinner, it's going to widen up. So one fold, and from this point on you need to be very careful because you don't want it to start. And I think one more should be good. So flatten from here and then put it together. Then do this to make sure it won't start separating. Thank you, Chris. And now before I do that, I'm going to first get it a little bit on the narrow and pull on it a little bit just to keep the narrowness. I'm pretty good as it is now, but I need to get it a little bit more in. And I'm going to actually cut it in 3 to be easier to work with, to use the cutter, not the cane, because we did a lot of canes. So let's do it this way this time. So I'm going to push the raggedy rags in. Flatten a little bit, and now I'm going to go to a very thin sheet. I'll get this here so I can work on it. So now I have a nice thin. Seamus! He came here to tell me something and I was too busy, so now he went in the hole and is pouring his little heart out. What? Really? Okay. Where's my cutter? Oh, there it is. My cutter had disappeared. Okay, so as you can see, this one does have, this end is a little bit flatter. It's not as pointy as the other end. So this will be the base. So I want the base to be slightly darker than the tip. And yes, you are going to need a lot of petals. I ended with the 8 on the makings, so like the one before the thinnest, because it's going to get even a little bit more thin once you do some veining on it. Now this one, if you want to do a good job, your best bet is to do, remember how the penny had to be done in 2 bakes. If you want a pretty dahlia, you kind of need to do 3 bakes. I know this you see on my videos, this one part you see much faster because I do the speeding. Unfortunately, as you all know, my hands and arms don't work that fast. Okay, now the thing is that everything that I cut I can reuse, right? So I'm going to gently peel it off. And I put all the ends on this side. Because all the remnants I can remake the Skinner blend. So if you want a dahlia to look really, really pretty, dahlias, most of the dahlias are an even color. You know, they don't have a lot of, but they get all the color difference from the petals being gathered together. Hi Sarah, hi Chris. But in this case you want to kind of encourage that. Let me show you exactly what I, oh, I shut off that window. Never mind then. Got caught up with the clay thing. So once you get this again through the machine, you redo the whole Skinner blend, and you can make out of this little of a Skinner blend, you can actually make close to 2 flowers. And just made a little bit more so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And don't worry about the petals not being super perfectly cut, because remember they need to be veined, and once you vein them, they are going to get a little bit bigger and you're going to have to cut again, and that's going to be the precision cut. I usually just use these sheets of wax paper to get them in the various. I first do all the stuff like this, and then I go ahead and I do all the veining, and then I go ahead and I do all the cutting. So I prepare all my petals first. Hi Sarah. Okay, so you see I have the Skinner blend here again, and I'm going to put it aside so I can remake it to make more petals. Now, of course, I want to make sure they are nicely separated, because at this point what you want to have, you want to have a general idea of the size of the petal and how many you're gonna need. And again, you can keep the cutouts from when you finish cutting, but you don't really need to. It depends on how much clay you have and if you want to do any kind of economies. Now, when it comes to the veining, I'm gonna have to get up. There is one thing, not you. No, let me see if it's here, because I'm not sure if I put it here or in the. It's here. There is something that's called a veining pen. And what a veining pen does, it is quite useful actually. Let me get a flat sheet of clay. You get veins. I don't know if you can see it properly. See right here. So you just get, let me try and find another color that would look better. Let's try this red. See if it shows better. See, you do petal veining. So you can try this. Or you can try, as I said, generally speaking for you, let me grab my flower thingies. Excuse me. Finnegan's here. Generally speaking, when you want a flower veining, these are some veiners that I bought. I didn't realize how big they were, and they weren't very well presented either. I mean, these are great for humongous wedding cakes, but not for what we are doing here. Nevertheless, I was saying before that if you want to just get whatever you might need in terms of veiners, if you want to make flowers, number one, get a rose, because a rose will be good for a lot of flowers. And when you get them, you have two choices. These would be the actual polymer clay veiners. Why I say that they are actual polymer clay veiners, because they are much firmer, as you can see. Or you can get a Sugarcraft veiner, which is a lot more subtle, but sugar paste is way softer than polymer clay. So this will be it's not like with the molds, but not so much, because with the molds, if you try to use Sugarcraft molds and you press too hard, it's going to distort the details of the mold. With this one, not really, but it's a little bit harder to. Let's get an example. Let me get this in thin. So the difference between a polymer clay and the Sugarcraft veiner. So the polymer clay veiner, and it's, as I said, it's actually more the veins are more obvious, they are more defined. Usually what I do, I just go with my roller over them. And as a piece of advice, generally if you are working with just one color, don't bother cutting. Just place them in like this and cut after you vein them. It's going to look much better. So this would be the polymer clay veiner. Hi Zoe. So as you can see, it's more defined. I'm going to zoom in so you can see better. And let's try the Sugarcraft veiner. You'll see the differences between the two. Always make sure that it's aligned properly here. And let me actually cut them. And then I'm going to focus the camera. Okay. So depending on what flower you're doing, you can use these rose veiners for a lot of other flowers. That was the idea of what I was trying to explain. So let me refocus the camera so you can see the differences. See how one is more defined, it's stronger veining. Let me turn them on the other side as well. But again, some flowers have more veins than others. So it's completely up to you what you want to try to achieve. Now, when it comes to the huge ones that I did, no, I didn't. It's actually, I washed it this morning, then I worked some more, and I'm getting all sweaty and stuff, so it's just, I usually cut it from time to time. I just go around the same distance from the head, except for the back where it's a little bit shorter, but because I got curly hair, it goes by itself how it wants. I have something here. Okay, now if you get the larger ones, like these ones that I told you I got, it is okay, but the thing is that you're not going to use the whole thing. You can easily cut you can use them and cut with a smaller cutter a smaller petal, and that is just fine. And as you can see, I have more veined and less veined. This would be a lily veiner, and again, you can use it on a smaller lily. This is obviously a leaf veiner, and this is a hydrangea leaf veiner. But for leaves, just grab one of these and you should be fine, even if this is a rose leaf. Or just go outside and grab a few leaves and then make yourself your own textures, either using the bake and bend, or you can use PolyClay. PolyClay is going to work just fine. Or here I have a poppy, for example. But when it comes to the dahlia, dahlia doesn't really have a lot of veining, so there is no reason for you to even bother too much with the veining. Only that you'll have to use, and I'll show you with the ball stylus. Come on, baby, come here. And then the other thing that I do advise you to do is, when you start putting it together, and you'll see how, I'm going to use a little bit of talcum after I make the central little egg, little core that goes with it. So remember that always when you do this on the palm of your hand, hold on a second, I think that's my package with the piece I still need for the computer. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, and as I said, whenever you do stuff on the palm of your hand, you'll get a very, very delicate veining. And all you need to do is, let me grab my armor roll. Where's my armor roll? I started cleaning this area, so what did I do with my armor roll? Someone stole my armor roll. Where the heck did it go? What in the world? Don't tell me that the computer guys took it. Might have thought that it's something from him, because it's not here. Oh, darn it. What the heck? I'm really miffed right now. Anyway, I was going to show you how to do these, but I'm having some issues because I don't have a release agent. God, this sucks. It really pisses me off because I don't have another one in the house. I'm gonna have to order one. They are all in my influencer store, Cheryl. If you go look, there's a special section for flowers and veiners and cutters and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, the idea is that you need to do this, and I showed you before how to do the veining, and then after you do it nice and veined, and the thing is that you'll have to get on the edges. Yeah, it just sticks too much. On the edges like this, so you won't be able to see much. So first you vein it and you make it a little bit bowing, just a little bit. You need to have a little bit of bowing here for when you're going to place your petal. And then you cut it again. So you're gonna cut it again, and after you cut it again, you're gonna still have that little bowing thing, but after you cut it, then you take your ball stylus and then you go on the edge of the petal, because you want to completely remove that very sharp edge from the cutting. You want the petal edge to be nice and thin. And as I said, you don't really need a lot of veining. So I didn't cut very good here. I'm starting to get really miffed about my armor roll. I'm gonna have to text him. Okay, so now we pretty much have the petal, and we are going to start to put everything together next Sunday, because I'm going to have to make like about, I don't know, 50, 60 of these petals and have them all ready and cold for being put together, because first we're gonna work with the core. And for the core, the other thing is for the core, because in the middle you'll have to have a little bit smaller petals, and this is my smallest, absolutely my smallest cutter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just cut as normal, but then go like this. See, I'm going to make like 5 or 6 with the cutter like this, and then like 5 or 6 with the cutter like this, and then 5 or 6 with the cutter like this, and this should be enough for the middle of the dahlia. So for next time, if you want to work with me, that's what you need to have. You need to have all your little petals like this, and then keep them in the fridge for about an hour, and then you're ready to roll to make your brooch. The other thing that I'm going to do in the meantime and have ready so that we can put it together, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to see if I'm going to do it in 3 stages or not, or if I'm going to try and show you in 1 stage. Depends on how my clay reacts. But I'm going to have the brooch part by itself ready. So let me try and get, I think I had the brooches. I have a brooches playlist, but if I don't, I'm gonna still link you a tutorial with how to make a brooch using something like this. Okay, hold on. No, let me try and find here. Okay. So here is one with a poppy, and that was during a live. Thank you, Donna. I posted it earlier, and it's also in the video description. You'll have to scroll up. Then there's another one. Oh, with a bow of holly. But just look at the brooch part itself, and on which I apply stuff, because this is what we are going to have. I'm going to have a brooch already made, a blank brooch on which we are going to construct the dahlia. Okay, so I guess I will see you all next Sunday, and I will have all these little petals all prepared to just be put together. The brooch will be set, it will have the pin inside and everything. Watch those 2 tutorials if you haven't watched yet any of my brooch tutorials, and you'll have it ready, and then you can prepare your petals. It might take you more than a day. I mean, if you're like me and you cannot sit on a chair for too long without problems, it might take you more than a day to make. I would say make at least 50 petals. But if you want your brooch to be really nice and pretty, I'd say go for more like 80. And this quantity that I show you here, you easily get 80 petals. And remember, I cut about 2/4 of an inch slices from the 8 ounces. So that would mean like a total of 3.5 on the thickest setting, 3.5 squares of white with a little band of magenta pearl, and then with, you saw the quantity of yeah, let me post a link to my store before I leave. The amount of translucent that I used. Let me post real quick the store, because you can find, I have there full flowers and veiners, and let me see how it's called. Flower making veiners and tools. This is how it's called, the section, because you'll see my my influencer store is quite organized and quite everything. So when you go to it, just scroll down until you find the section with flower making veiners and tools, and there you find there are sets, they are separate, but you will find cutters, you will find molds, you will find veiners, and you will find also those all kinds of tools for it. And remember, I'm going to do soon, I don't know if it's gonna be this week or if it's gonna be Sunday, but we're gonna have a giveaway. Just a second. So I'm gonna have a giveaway, and it's gonna be on Facebook probably. Not sure if I'm gonna do it on YouTube, but this is a set of making flowers. It's with working on flowers, and I'm going to soon have a few tutorials out there on how to actually work with them. But it's a very pretty set. And it's got all kinds of various tools to create, and on one of these tools I'm going to show you real quick real soon a tutorial on how to make how do you call them, carnations, because those are a little bit tricky to make, but I'll show you real soon how to make carnations, and you will need one of these tools absolutely if you want to get your carnation done. But as you can see, it's a pretty tool for making flowers, and it's going to be on the giveaway on Facebook. As I said, I'm not sure when I'm gonna have the next giveaway on YouTube. It's gonna be one soon too, but I shall see you all next Sunday with a whole set of petals done, and we'll put together the brooch. So don't forget to make the brooch by itself. Okay, thank you so much for being here with me, and let me see, this way. I'll see you all Sunday. Have a great reminder of what's left of Sunday, and take care. Don't get COVID-19. Okay, be careful. Bye.